Nick, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to learning more about DataHub. Can you start our conversation off by giving us an overview of what DataHub is and also what it allows voters to do?
Yeah, for sure. The DataHub is basically, as its name suggests, it's a little device that you have on board your boat that can collect and read your data sources, in particular your NMEA feed. And so it can output all of that. It can record that information and actually act as a Wi-Fi hub and do tracking for you. Would really be the basics of what it does.
And so when you kind of think about the sort of top three or top five most important features that it offers, what are those?
Yeah, so initially the DataHub started out as a device that we could use for tracking. So, when people were turning off their SATCOMs, they were going onto an LTE connection and they were turning off their satellite tracking, and then they wanted to keep tracking. And so that was where the DataHub started. And so tracking is a big deal, and it can do better tracking than any other device in some respects because it can read your NMEA data. It can give you your wind speed and direction, as well as your heading and direction of the vessel. So that's pretty cool. The second thing would be probably one of the newer features. It's become a favorite of mine, is the over the horizon AIS. So it's feeding in AIS outside of your VHF range and displaying that on any device you want on board. The other features that it does is the AI polars would probably be the number three. So it's updating your performance polar, which is how that all works, is actually really clever. And then it does other things like compressed email, chat for lower bandwidth connections. There's a multitude of things that it does.
We'll probably unpack some of that as we get deeper. What kind of boats is DataHub designed for? I mean, is there sort of a sweet spot for the technology, or is it more power, more sail?
Our market in general is more sail. PredictWind, but we really are doing a lot of work with the power boaters now. The developer of the DataHub, he has a launch, sure. Maybe it's a trawler type style vessel. And so it's really anything, but that marine leisure market, yachts, racing yachts, we're seeing quite a bit of interest from that market due to the fact that they can record all their data, and also people can remotely log in. So, like a high-end race team, they can actually be sending their data back to their shore crew for analysis when they're doing their training and that sort of thing. So, anywhere in the marine recreational sort of sector, power yacht.
So you talked about race teams sending data off of the boat. I'm assuming that there's an internet component of this. How is DataHub connecting with the internet?
So the DataHub will connect to any connection that you have on board, so long as it's anything above short burst data, which is a very small packet. So, anything from an Iridium Go through to your Starlink, that can actually be used. The DataHub can use that as a connection, as well as 4G, LTE type connections. So whatever you've got, it'll connect to that, and that's how you can send data up. Obviously, in that scenario, you would need a higher bandwidth solution.
So aside from a race team who would want to send their data back to shore for analytics and weather routing and stuff, what are the other advantages of N2K data sharing?
Well, so for instance, if you had a problem, with your chart plotter or some other electrical system on board that's connected, you can actually allow a technician to remotely log in and have a look at what's going on there. So, we've had instances where people have fixed all sorts of things on board with a technician remotely logging in to wherever you are.
So you're talking about a situation where somebody, with a third party piece of equipment, if I have trouble with, say, a Raymarine chart plotter, I could potentially use DataHub to get a Raymarine technician to be able to look at the problem on my boat.
that's exactly what it can do. Yes.
So can real-time data that's coming off of data hubs, can that be used sort of like weather buoy data to create weather forecasts? Could a meteorology office or even PredictWind be able to use the real-time data coming off of a sailboat to figure out, oh, there's weather over there?
So at this stage, the data hubs can be used as an observation point. So yes, we are getting that weather feed, as I said, for the tracking. You are getting the wind speed and direction coming off the boat, and we display that as an observation in our observations page. It's an opt-in thing, but yeah, most people are pretty happy to have their vessel as an observation beacon as such. Could it be used in weather forecast? Yes, once there was enough out there. I think you need to have a substantial data set before that would become valid to be used in a global weather model as an observation system.
With the observation map, though, if I'm on my boat and I'm sharing my data, can I see weather on other boats?
Yes. So on whether you're on the PredictWind app or whether you're in the offshore app and you download the observations, yes, you can see.
Can you talk a little bit more about the over the horizon AIS? How does that work?
It's a pretty new feature that we've added, and it's very popular, and it's quite clever what it's doing. So you have your normal AIS targets that you get from your VHF, and so that's sort of up to 5 miles or sometimes more, sometimes less. And so then what we're doing is we have the full satellite and terrestrial AIS data set, and we are putting a ring around where you are, and you can change that parameter up to 300 nautical miles. And so all of the AIS targets that are, I guess, internet based, outside of what you can see, the Data Hub can ping our servers and bring all those positions in to your vessel, and the Data Hub creates an NMEA string and sends that through your NMEA network, and so that can go to your chart plotter. It also has that information available on Wi-Fi. So if you have an iPad with a navigation set up on there, it can actually feed that data into there as well. So whichever way you're navigating, you can see those AIS targets outside of your range. So it's just giving you a much longer warning system than your local AIS.
It almost makes it a little bit like radar in terms of the big picture situational awareness, right?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's it can reach a lot further than radar. I'm not a radar expert, but we're probably reaching a lot further in a different system, really. And so it's it's nice to have different ways of doing things, and have that data feeding into your vessel.
And so where are you guys getting this data from?
So we get that data through Spire, who are one of the big AIS aggregators, and they have several sort of companies that they've either bought or have working in their group. And so we buy that data. AIS data is a pretty valuable piece of data set, and so we buy that in. We also use the Spire weather model in our forecasting systems, and so that's something else that we get from Spire.
And they're scooping that data up with satellites, am I correct, in some cases?
Yeah, so they have their own nano satellite network, and they are collecting all that data as those satellites fly around the world, and that's also how they use those same satellites to gather some of the weather information that they put into their model. So they're a pretty interesting company that do some cool stuff. And then we're also getting all the terrestrial stations as well. So they have a network of data that they're getting from a whole bunch of sources to complete the AIS picture as such.
At the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned AI pollers. Can you talk to me a little bit about what they are and what they would allow a voter to do?
Yeah, sure. So for anyone that doesn't know, a polar is how fast your boat goes in any given condition. So if it's 15 knots and you're at 90 degrees true wind angle, you might do 8 knots of boat speed. And so we so we have that for every wind speed, every angle. That's what you need for weather routing, so that the weather routing software can calculate where you should go, where you're going to be, and that's really important for safety, for racing. Knowing where you're going to be or how you can faster, get somewhere the fastest is within the weather is sort of what weather routing is all about. But you need an accurate polar, and often polars from yacht manufacturers are pretty optimistic. And then you factor in the especially cruising vessels, people load them up with gear, so it's a whole lot heavier. And then maybe, they're not sailing at America's Cup level. And so the way that the performance of the boat's actually quite a long way off what those design specifications are. So what the AI Polar does is, again, it's connect, from the DataHub. The information comes through from your NMEA, and it collects that data and it sends it back to our servers. And then sort of we have a very clever gentleman that works for us that's created a few different algorithms that can look at that data, and then it knows whether you're motoring, whether you're sailing, whether you're just moving up the marina or whatever. It can understand what you're doing, and it will only use valid data. So it'll discard any data that is not useful, and then it will incrementally update your polar. So it's not going to make massive changes because you did something, you had Russell Coots on the boat one day and you sailed it like, twice as good as what you normally do. It'll probably discard that data. And so it's just automatically updating your polar over time. And so more accurate polars mean more accurate weather routes.
Makes good sense. With everything that happened with this ship hitting the bridge in Baltimore, there's a lot of talk about data logging in the news right now. And I noticed that DataHub has a function that does that. Can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, is DataHub basically a black box flight recorder?
It can be. I think, so if, let's say, something did happen to your vessel or you, and you wanted to be able to show what had happened to you, whether that was, for an insurance purpose or whatever, you can record that data. We did have an instant, there was an instance not long after we launched the data hubs where two boats had actually hit each other in a yacht race, and one of them had a data hub and he could show this data. So yes, you can log your data and use that for however you wish.
Where is the information stored? Is it local on the DataHub?
Yeah, it is kept locally, and so there are limitations around that. You could periodically upload that data, and that's in the same way it can actually be remotely accessed as well, and you can actually push that data up all the time if you wish.
So I'm assuming that there's a subscription involved somewhere. Am I correct about that?
Yes. So I mean, the DataHub ties into our forecasting tools, and so most of the things that it does do require a PredictWind forecast subscription. So whether it's the AI polars or the over the horizon, they do require a PredictWind subscription.
And is there anything that, if you have a PredictWind subscription, is there anything really cool that happens? Can you unlock extra capabilities or functionality with the DataHub and a high level account?
Well, basically all of the key features are that we've talked about already. Are part of that. A pro package. And so that's really the tie-in.
Well, wrapping up, is there anything else about DataHub that you'd like to tell us about, or maybe that I didn't ask you about that's germane to our conversation?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we do. We're pretty close to finishing off an anchor alert app that ties in with the DataHub, and so it's been a long time in development. And and we're testing it now because obviously having being able to monitor your boat is pretty critical, and you wouldn't want to have something that wasn't working really well. But what is cool about what it's doing is that it's not relying on a phone or such, being there. The data hub is actually what's recording the boat's position. And again, because it's plugged into your NMEA network, it's getting all the solid data. So it can do, not only does it know if your boat's moving, it's or swung, it can look at the depth. Has the depth changed? Yeah, the depth's changed, or the boat must be moving. There's a bunch of different things that we're doing there, and it can be you could be somewhere, like your boat could be somewhere remote. Let's say you are somewhere pretty remote, and you had it connected to a satellite network, and so if Iridium Go Exec or something could be monitoring your boat, and you could have your phone with you. You might be at a market and somewhere, and you can monitor your boat from wherever you are. So it's a sort of a supercharged anchor alert, / boat monitoring system, and I think that's going to be pretty neat. And because it has that wired-in hardware, it's a lot more reliable than a phone-based system.
And people can check that anywhere in the world. Am I correct?
Yeah, literally anywhere. So yeah, and I guess some other things. Firewalls. You can set up a whole lot of profiles around that. One of the things I see on the internet quite a bit is people with Starlink, and they flick it onto mobile priority, and they have their 50 megabytes, and they've been sitting there for 3 hours, and all of a sudden gigabytes, and they've used all of their data in 3 hours because their phone has done a sync or something. So you can actually set the data hub up to be a firewall in that instance, so that you're not actually updating everything through your mobile priority data.
Well, Nick, thank you so much. I've learned a lot today. I appreciate it. I'm sure that everyone watching this has learned a lot about it as well. So thank you for your time, and please stay tuned for more great content down the road.